Hello and welcome to the Five Farms Irish Celtic Kitchen. We're doing some cooking demos today. There's a full menu of cooking demonstrations that you can come to starting now and ending at about 7:30 to 8 o'clock this evening with a cocktail demonstration. So my name is Mary Mack. I have a podcast called In the Kitchen with Mary Mack that you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube. We have recipes from our podcast up here as well as recipes for everything that we're going to be making today. So you're welcome to take some. And we'll also have samples of what we're making. So this recipe right now is for an Irish coffee cake. And this is a cake that, yes, it does have coffee in it. It has Kerrygold butter and Five Farms Irish cream. So we're going to attempt to bake it, which it may not bake, but we'll see how that goes. But we have our stunt cake ready, just in case. So we always like to have a stunt cake in case something happens. So here we go. I'll talk through the recipe, and this is kind of how we do the podcast too. I tell you a little bit about it and make the recipe. So I've greased my pan. This is a small sized bread pan, 4.5 by 3.5 by 2.5 deep. If you don't have a pan this size, you can use any pan that you have. I've made it in a regular bread pan. I've made it in a pound cake pan. It just comes out thinner, a little bit flatter and thinner, which it also does in this too. But so whatever you have, use that. So you want to grease your pan thoroughly, and then this is a good trick for any sort of a loaf cake. You want to put a piece of parchment paper in here and leave some wings on it. So what you're going to do is press that down into your shortening, and what that allows you to do is when the cake is done, you loosen it on this end and this end and lift it right out. And 9/10 of the time that works. So that's a good tip to remember. So first, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 3/4 of a cup of butter, and then 3/4 of a cup of flour, this is like a 3/4 pound cake sort of thing for some reason. I didn't plan that, but it came out that way. So, look how yellow that butter is. It's, so wonderful.
You have to use Kerrygold, right?
Well, I like to do it if I'm doing an Irish thing. I like my Kerrygold. So, and then we have 3 eggs also to go with our 3 theme. So, I like to start it this way. This is a 1 bowl cake, and you can actually dump everything in at one time. But I kind of like to do it like this so that you can get your sugar really well incorporated into your butter, and just beat it up with a spoon. And you want your butter to be nice and soft, because inevitably what will happen is you'll get a chunk of butter in there in your cake, which isn't a terrible thing, but it does happen. So we mix that up. Where I got the idea for this recipe, there's a really good blog, and if you love all things Irish, there's a blog called Eating for Ireland, and she's on Facebook, Instagram, and she has a wonderful website, and she shares recipes from her own life, her own family, and she's just like us. She's just a regular person, but she just started doing these recipes, and they're really interesting. A lot of them are things I've never heard of. So she had a coffee cake on there that had a ton of coffee in it, and I thought, well, we can adjust that and fix it up and use it for what we want. So that's what I did. Okay, now we're going to add our flour, and I have baking powder and salt in here also. Mix that in, and we have over here on the side some coffee dissolved in water. Now, sometimes I have used the powdered I can't think what it's called now, it just went right out of my head. Well, this is instant coffee. This is the Nescafe instant coffee. But the Italian powdered coffee. Espresso powder. Went right out of my head. But I have used that. But I found out that this Nescafe Classico gives you a very similar finish as that, and it's so much cheaper. Like, you can get this big jar for the price of a little teeny jar of espresso powder. So we're going to use that for some good coffee flavor.
Can you substitute chocolate?
Oh, you can do whatever you want to. You can make it yours. I think it would be good. And then stir that in. It gets nice and dark when you add the coffee. And last but not least, you need a tablespoon of Five Farms Irish cream. And this cake, the reason I made this, I thought it was kind of a funny pun because it's an Irish coffee cake and it's like an Irish coffee and it's a cake. So it's a classic rock and roll pun. You always want to shake your Irish cream before you use your Five Farms Irish cream because it can settle. So you want to make sure it's well mixed before you open it up. And I have this really awesome little measuring shot glass that I use, so this thing is so handy. So there we go. We'll just leave you like that because we're going to use it more. So we're going to blend this in as good as we can. And I have made this with beaters, but it works as well with a spoon. So I just decided to stick with the spoon. And it makes a nice thick batter. So then what we want to do is scrape it all down, back into the bowl, and we're going to scrape that into our loaf. You can really smell everything. That's what I love about this. You get the coffee, you get the Five Farms Irish cream, you get all of it. I think this might be nice for making even like a little tea cake with it. So, now we're going to put this, I'm going to shut myself off for a second while we put this in the oven. So I don't make everyone deaf with the feedback from the mic. And we're going to hope for the best. Fingers crossed. Here we go. Now we're going to work with our stunt cake. So here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. I can hear myself just fine. Okay. Now we're going to work with our stuffed cake. So, this I was in a hurry and I pulled it out too soon. So I made it late at night. But it's still good. It just fell a little bit. Don't ever be afraid to use something because it doesn't look right. Because no matter how it looks, it'll always taste good. So just, don't ever think you did it wrong or you did a bad job because we all do that. I'm a professional baker and I forget to put yeast in my bread. So, things happen. You can't focus on everything. So this is going to be the frosting coating that we put on the cake. And this is pretty simple. It's 2 cups of powdered sugar. And then I'm adding 2 tablespoons of the Kerrygold butter to that. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of Irish cream. Because usually, when you make a frosting or an icing, it's just something like this. It's pretty simple. Butter, powdered sugar, maybe vanilla, and some milk. So the milk is already in here. And the whiskey, so it works perfect. It works perfect for anything like that. It's such a good substitute for vanilla, like if you want to get a different flavor. I'm going to be doing one this afternoon, a demonstration of Irish potato candy, and that calls for vanilla, but I switched it to Five Farms Irish cream, and it's Awesome. It really took it up a notch. So here we go with our Irish cream. And then you just stir that up and try to get your butter all mixed in with your powdered sugar. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work. I don't know, I'll tell you what, this Irish butter has a little bit of body to it. So it's not like Giant Eagle butter. If it's a little on the thick side, like this is, because you want to be able to like drizzle it. So once you get that butter all incorporated into your powdered sugar, all you need to do is add just a little bit more. And what I do is I'll take a tablespoon and just put a few drops at a time in until I get the consistency that I want. Just the same way you would do with milk. Now, as warm as it is, you'd think this would sag pretty easily, but I don't think it's going to. So you want to have it a nice little spreading consistency, but you also want it to kind of droop down the sides a little bit. So we'll see if we have that. I think we do. And see what a nice color it is. It's just, that's the Five Farms and the butter. It gives it that beautiful tone to it, you know, just gives it a different tone. So what you want to do is put your frosting on there and kind of spread it around. You don't have to be real neat or anything. And get it to where it's right to the edge of the cake, and it'll just fall over on its own. And I had said on the podcast, this cake is nice. You make it the night before, let it sit overnight and let the flavors blend. But it's also good when you just make it too. So there you go. There is your Five Farms Irish Cream Irish Coffee Cake. Thank you. We have recipe cards. I have samples. I'm going to get samples up in cups for you. I have the recipe is up here, a recipe card. And if you go to the bit.ly.s tagged on our pictures here, they have the complete recipe online. So you can go right to that link and have it online too. There's other recipe cards here you can take as well for the other things I'll be doing, and also some of the things we've done on the podcast. So we'll see if someday that'll be done. So, yes?
If you're baking that at home and you know you're going to be wanting to get ahead of the schedule and you're going to serve it the next day, can you do the bread the night before and then frost it the next day?
Yes, you can do that, absolutely.
Yeah. And then should it be refrigerated if that's a certain temperature, if it's a little on the warm side?
If it's cool in your house, I would just put it in a plastic container or a sealed container, and to keep it fresh. But I don't think you would need to refrigerate it at all. So we've eaten a lot of this in the last few weeks. So as everything we do, we eat it to death. So yes. Any other questions?
Are you local to Pittsburgh?
I am in Lawrence County. I have a a website called Mary Mac Bakehouse. And we have a web store on there where we sell baking mixes and stuff, but all of our podcasts are on there, and we have recipe cards, PDF recipe cards in this format, so you can go on there and find any recipe that we've done on the podcast and print it out if you want to. If you don't want to, you can save it on your computer.
Do you have a storefront in Lawrence County?
I'm working on a storefront in Lawrence County, but currently I have a friend who lives nearby, and we have a store called Standing Chimney. We're open the first Saturday of each month. November, we're open every Saturday. And we say we're in the middle of nowhere, but on the way to everywhere. So we're just off of 376, but once you get off of there, you'll say, what in the world? It's like cowland here, So, but we have a store, we sell 95% of the things we sell are locally made or sourced. And it's kind of just a neat destination to go to. Thanks.
You had mentioned Kerrygold versus Giant Eagle butter. Can you let folks know kind of the
The difference is, read the label, okay? European butter is just cream and salt if there's salt in it, and no salt if there's no salt in it. It's made like the old-fashioned way of making butter. There's not additives in it. So I know holiday baking is around the corner, and sometimes people think that they will buy bargain butter or store brand butter to save money, but you'll be sad to find out that the moisture content of that butter is so much higher than this because there have been fillers put into it. So if you're going to be doing baking, like if you have a recipe that you really want to come out well, or a very special sort of like a lot of people find that when you do like the pastry style cookies, if you use that lesser quality butter, they fall flat, they just hang flat and don't come up in layers like they should, and that's because of the additives. So read your label on your butter. Even in the United States, Land O'Lakes butter is so much of a higher quality butter than almost any other butter because they don't put additives in it. So you will find that if lower priced butter, like if you've ever softened butter and it collapsed on you, like this butter is at room temperature and it's not falling off that paper. That's because it's just butter, you know. So structurally, it's far more sound. But if you want, use quality ingredients if you can. If you can't, use what you use. If it works for what you're doing, that's fine. But I've had a lot of people call me about that. Why these cookies didn't come out right? They're spreading. What happened? And that's it. It's because of that higher moisture content in the butter, the higher amount of fillers in it. So, okay, anybody else? All right, then I'll start putting out some samples of this for you. They may not be beautiful looking because they fought me the whole time cutting them, so.